Hey everyone, welcome to the Decorative Den, a look inside my craft room where I share all things crafting, planning, and DIY. My name is Charity and I am so happy to have you here with me. Today is my first Halloween craft project of the season and I am making this vintage inspired Halloween moon. I love how this turned out and I am so excited to share the process with you. So if you are interested in seeing that, then just keep watching. So starting with supplies, the first thing you're going to need is a wood round, and it can be any size. The one I'm using is 18 inches in circumference. I'm also using a pencil, some scissors, some tape, just Scotch tape, a variety of paint brushes, and some acrylic paint. Now I have 3 bottles of acrylic paint pictured here, but I do end up only using 2 of these, the matte black and the orange shade, and I'll talk more about that when we're actually doing the craft project. Now, in addition to these supplies, the other thing you're going to need is some kind of template for your moon face. Now, if you go onto Pinterest or Instagram, you'll see many examples of like man in the moon decor pieces. And so I definitely encourage you to pick something you like. The one I'm using is inspired by a vintage 1927 Denison die cut, and it's called Surprised Moon with Owls. And on Pinterest, I found a template already made by vintagefangirl.com. And so I just sized it up to fit my wood round, and that is what I'm using for this project. So the first thing I'm doing is cutting out my stencil or my template. And because I'm working with a very large piece of wood, my stencil is actually like 6 pieces of paper that I kind of needed to piece together here. And so for me, I tried so hard on the computer to size this to fit my 18-inch wood round. And of course, when I printed it, I forgot about the margins. And so it printed larger than I expected. And so here I am trying to just kind of piece it together to make sure that my image still will look like correct and good, but that it will also still fit on my wood round, because I didn't want to go back on the computer and resize this and print it again. So once I have everything the way I like it, I'm just going in with my Scotch tape and connecting all the pieces of my template. And then I'm flipping my template over and with my pencil coloring on all of the image details. So shading over the owls, the back of the owls, the back of the branch, and all of the moon's facial features. This is a very simplistic tracing technique. Obviously, if you have tracing paper, that would be a great option instead of doing this. Definitely, if you have a cutting machine like a Cricut, you could make a template or stencil using that. But I'm doing this the old-fashioned way just to show that this is such an easy project and one that you really can do with just a pencil. Now, once I had the whole back shaded, I flipped my stencil back over and with some Scotch tape just attached it to my wood round because I don't want it to move at all while actually tracing out the elements of this image. And then with my pencil again, I'm just going through and tracing out all of the image elements. And while doing this tracing, I found that any places where I had put down tape to kind of hold my stencil together, I did have to go back over those areas a couple times because I did have a hard time transferring specifically in the taped areas. And you'll see in this video, I do go through with my pencil after I'm done tracing and just sharpen up some of those lines to make them a little more crisp and easier to see for the next step. And now comes the fun part, in my opinion. I'm going in and finally painting my wood round. So I like to start with the background, and here I am using a light orange color. It's just apple barrel paint from Walmart, and the color is orange sherbet. I love this color, and I will say my camera is definitely really washing out the color here. And so in the intro images, the orange you see in those shots is definitely more of a true color if you are wondering what this actually kind of looks like. Again, this is a super light orange, but it's very washed out right here. But I'm starting with a medium-sized flat brush and going through and painting all the large parts of the moon. I find that's the easiest way to cover as much of the background as you can. And then I will go back in with a smaller brush and get closer to those actual facial features and the owls and the branch and all the elements of this piece. That's why I think it's good to have a variety of paint brushes in your craft stash, something a little larger like this one, and then working all the way down to those fine detail brushes. So I'm just going through and covering the whole background. You can definitely on yours do multiple layers of paint, especially if you want a really uniform wash of color. I kind of liked the look of just one layer of paint, so I only did one layer in most spots. There were a few areas I touched up a little bit, but I liked that in my finished piece. When you're looking at it close up, some of the wood grain shows through, and I think the slight variation in tones with just one layer of paint makes it look a little more vintage and handmade. So I did just one layer, but definitely feel free to do more on yours, especially if you want a really consistent coverage in your piece. Now, once you have the background painted, it's time to move on to those details. And for this, I used just a matte black, again, apple barrel paint. I think it's literally just called black. And so I started with the owls because my vintage inspiration art for this had the owls and the branch in black. And then the moon's face was actually this kind of bluish gray color. And so that's originally what I thought I was going to do, which is why I had 3 bottles of paint in the beginning of this video. But as I was painting with the blue-gray color I had picked out, which I thought was going to be a close match to the original image, it wasn't right. You can see a little bit of it here that I'm painting over right now in the eyebrow and the eyelashes of the moon, but against the orange sherbet color, the blue-gray paint I had picked out just looked really blue. And I don't know, the undertones were just really coming out, and I mixed white in it, I mixed more black in it, I even grabbed a tanny taupe color to add in there, and no matter what I did, I felt like it didn't look right, and so I decided to just go very simple and paint all of the facial features and the details in this matte black. That way, they really pop against the orange, and I think it just adds a nice simplicity to the piece. But I'm just going through and finishing that up. And then here is the finished look. I absolutely love how this turned out. I am just so excited to have this displayed on my mantle for Halloween. I think it is even a great general fall centerpiece, but that's because I like my fall decor a little spooky too. But no matter what you're making this for, everyday decor, Halloween, fall, whatever it may be, I really hope that you feel inspired to make a little vintage moon piece of your own. Again, there are so many great templates and vintage art that can inspire you for this. And so this is really one that you can make your own, which I think is the best part. Well, that'll do it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for being here with me. I hope you are well, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.